Well, welcome to our conversation about networking and mentorship, brought to you by the Office of Alumni Relations. My name is Chris Bosman. I'm a Utah grad and Chief Alumni Relations Officer at the U. The U has launched a new global networking and mentoring platform called the Forever Utah Alumni Network, where you can connect with fellow alums and reach out to current students looking for career advice and support to meet their academic and career goals. We welcome questions from our audience, and you can submit them in the YouTube chat. We'll also send a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to this recording and key messaging from the discussion. Now, I'll turn the time over to Glenn Seninger from our Alumni Board of Governors to introduce himself and the other panelists. Thank you for joining us, and welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, Chris. I hope you can hear me all right. Thanks for the introduction and welcome to today's webcast. And as Chris mentioned, we have a guest list of panelists that are going to share their insights and best practices as it relates to this whole topic of mentoring and being mentored. As Chris mentioned, I'm on the U Alumni Board, and I have been on the board for a number of years. And this initiative is something that is new and exciting that we're going to be rolling out across the alumni organization globally. And we want to give you a chance to get a little bit of preview. So if my panelists can turn on their cameras, I think we want to have a chance to have you introduce yourselves. So Mark, Becky, Jacob, Alvaro, Crystal, maybe you can turn on your cameras and let's just go around the horn. So we'll start first with our mentors. Becky, would you introduce yourself?
My name is Becky Jardine, and I'm an occupational therapist here in the Salt Lake area. I graduated from the University of Utah in 2002 with my master's in occupational therapy, and that actually was the first graduating class for that program.
Excellent. Mark, how about you?
I'm Mark Hardy. I graduated from the U of U in 1989 in economics and political science. And I have been involved in the private equity space most of my career, doing some consulting early on, but private equity and investing of the like.
Great. Thanks for joining. Jacob, let's go to you, my friend.
All right. I'm Jacob Johnson, a recent U of U grad. I graduated last year with a bachelor's of science in finance, and now work on the strategy team in New York for a company called Better, which is a financial technology company.
Awesome. Crystal, let's go to you.
Hey, Crystal. I'm a current senior at the University of Utah, majoring in kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise sports science. Currently working on my capstone, as well as TAing for general chemistry class here at the University of Utah. Super excited to graduate in May.
Excellent. Alvaro?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alvaro Martinez. I'm a senior at the University of Utah pursuing a degree in finance. Currently, I work as a junior financial analyst for an asset management firm focused on global equities.
Great. Again, thanks to everybody for joining us. And I guess this whole topic, there's a lot of buzz right now around this term mentoring. And I guess I'm going to ask the first question maybe of you, Becky, if you don't mind. Just give us a sense, why did you decide to, I guess, get involved at the U and giving back a little bit of your time and your expertise as a mentor? And what were some of the things you learned just kind of filling that role as a mentor? Can you give us some of your thoughts?
Sure. So I worked at a skilled nursing facility for the past 17 years, and I recently switched to being an independent contractor. So I became more reliant on community resources around me. So I think I have a deeper appreciation of what it means, even in my working profession, to have mentors around me and to go through the process of having people to reach out to. So when I had the opportunity to mentor Crystal, it was really nice to have that opportunity to share what I have learned in the working field, but also what I continually draw on as a professional.
Were you worried at all about just kind of having to fill this role as a mentor? Because sometimes you can feel a little intimidated or overwhelmed by being, having to have all the answers. I mean, did you have any concerns?
Oh, absolutely. Because the first time I met Crystal, she was super impressive and she seemed really tapped into a lot of the resources at the university because she is applying to PA school. And that's something that I didn't really have a lot of information in, but we have the same major and we're both in the same health field. And I was surprised with how many commonalities that we had that I could be a good sounding board for her.
Nice. So it put you a little more at ease once you got a chance to meet and understand kind of where she was headed in her career. So Crystal, let's go to you. I mean, so how valuable was it having someone like Becky who had kind of walked a few miles in the shoes that you were looking to walk in and I guess ask questions? Give us a sense for what it was like to come into this as a mentee.
It was super wonderful. I remember when I first met with Becky, I was telling her how I was so overwhelmed with everything I was doing in my chemistry classes, my exercise physiology class, and like how they were just so time consuming and I was like struggling. And she was like, don't worry, like I struggled too. So it was kind of like seeing that, like, you know, other people also struggle, not just me. And then I remember I was telling her one time when we met up, like, I really want a TA for chemistry. And now look at me like a whole year after, like I'm TAing for chemistry, like I wanted to when I told her. So I think it was like really cool to like, you know, just talk about my experiences with her and her really connecting with me with those same experiences.
So it really helped, if I hear what you're saying, it really helped having someone who had kind of gone through it, put you at ease and maybe kind of guide you in some areas that you were concerned about, it sounds like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Really put me at ease.
All right. Jacob, I'm going to come to you, my friend. So you had a chance to meet Mark. Give us a sense for some of the things you felt you benefited from in just connecting with Mark and just give us your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So when I first met Mark, I was actually paired with Mark through a program with the Student Alumni Board and the Alumni Association. Really didn't know what to expect on that front, but I connected with Mark and really benefited tremendously just from, I mean, even from our first interaction of just understanding, you know, what his background is and, you know, where he went to school for graduate school, and really got a sense of, you know, how he's managed different aspects of his life. And I think that's one thing that, you know, we don't consider is, you know, these mentors we usually reach out to for professional help. But, you know, at that time in my life, I was, you know, in a serious relationship, also navigating my senior year of school, looking at different jobs. And Mark was able to assist on multiple fronts, and just being able to talk to someone about that and, you know, looking at, you know, where Mark has landed and what he's achieved in his career was, you know, obviously really impressive, but he was able to talk to, you know, every aspect of where I was at in my life, which, you know, is super helpful and really beneficial just to have that exposure and just have that understanding and be able to see, you know, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and just having someone there to say, you know, these are the paths that I would recommend, these are the things that I would look into, and this is how I'd approach this situation. And I think that's really, I mean, from day one, Mark was able to provide me with that, which I just really benefited tremendously from that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there was a certain level of discussion around kind of your professional career, but as you got to know each other, then some additional questions came up about work-life balance, how to kind of approach different situations. You kind of developed a comfort level and a trust there. So Mark, how did you end up feeling comfortable enough to kind of advise Jacob on things outside of the business world? And tell us how you kind of built that connection and relationship with Jacob.
Well, I think the first important thing here is you know, I'm the one who got more information out of this than Jacob. It was, you know, he's a fantastic young man with, he's on a great trajectory in life. And one of my goals in life is to always connect with people who frankly can provide me new energy. And Jacob is just you know, he's a ball of energy and is focused on the right things. I don't think I did much more than listen to Jacob and play back for him where he was in life and frankly learn from him. Great young man. And that's one of the neat parts about the mentor program is you get to connect with. I have children that roughly the same age as Jacob. They won't listen to me, but Jacob did listen to me on some aspects, or at least he faked it better than my kids. And in all honesty, it's a two-way street, and it's been really enjoyable to get to know him and to make those connections. And we had some, just by sheer circumstance or coincidence, we had some overlapping relationships, which we were able to build upon. And then as a result of that, I think move quickly into some personal relationship as well. But I think that's going to naturally happen when you open up about some vulnerabilities you have, whether they be school related, looking for job related. You get yourself in a position where you open yourself up to getting some input and saying, look, I don't know where else where else should I go on this? And that opens up avenues of communication.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, listen, I don't know that you thought you were going to run into a young man from Twin Falls, Idaho at the University of Utah, but I think that was a great connection. So that's some great advice. I kind of feel the same way you do, Mark, about my connection with Alvaro. When I first met Alvaro, we had the opportunity to visit, and I just said, a little bit like you, maybe Becky, somewhat like you as well, saying, gosh, I don't want to blow it with Alvaro. I want to make sure that I'm providing some insight. And so I think Alvaro helped me raise my game relative to just making sure that I brought him some thoughts and insights that I thought were valuable. And Alvaro is an outstanding student. If I'm correct, Alvaro, you're first generation university student, if I'm correct on that. And
that's
then,
right. Yeah.
You've also been in student leadership in some various roles. So maybe you could add on just the mentoring side of it. What areas do you feel like mentoring side that in our discussions helped? And give us some of your thoughts.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Glenn, for having me here today. I think the relationship between you and I was sort of like perfect timing, because at that moment in my life, I had a ton of insecurities about, what is my job going to be after I graduate? Being a first generation student, you sort of lack that sense of navigation in terms of navigating the whole recruitment process. And I think that by speaking with you and having those conversations about what it's like to go through the recruitment process allowed me to realize what my capabilities were and how to display them in a way that were attractive for recruiters. So it was it was a very valuable experience to have you as a mentor.
I'm just curious, and this is maybe for the students first, or the some of you graduated and some are still in school, but Jacob, then Crystal, then back to Alvaro. Give us a sense, how important is it that somebody be aligned in your exact field? I mean, so Becky, you and Crystal were very aligned based on your fields, but Jacob, you and Mark had business interests. I mean, Alvaro, you and I had some different things. So Jacob, do you think it's super important that you have to be exactly aligned with the person that's mentoring you in terms of your career, exact career area?
Not necessarily. If you take Mark and I's relationship, business is such an expansive field where there's so many. I mean, Mark spent his career in private equity. I went into technology, and obviously there's some overlap there, but I think what's important is knowing what you want out of the relationship and where that mentor can offer guidance or insight. And that's what was really critical for me, is just knowing that Mark may not be in tech, but Mark has a lot of perspective, worked with a lot of technology companies, and is able to offer that guidance based off of where I'm at and where I'm looking to go. And so I think less about having the same background or being in the same field, but knowing what aspects of that person's life do you want to emulate or apply in your own life. And I think that's what's really important, is just knowing what you're looking to get out of that relationship and where you're looking to go moving forward.
Great point. Crystal, I think for you, I don't want to speak for you, but I think it was pretty important having someone who'd kind of been in your same field. Although I know Becky's in the occupational therapy. Are you looking to get into the same area or something similar?
So I'm also going into health, but I want to become a physician assistant working within family medicine. But Becky's background really like aligned to like everything I'm studying now, like with physical therapy. But I think the biggest thing that Becky's helped me with is trying to write my, personal statement for grad schools. Like she went through that application process when she was applying for her master's program. And so that's something I'm currently in the process of, like how to create the best letter for these grad programs, but also navigating the whole process of applying to graduate school, which is something no one in my family has done, or no one I know has done, being first generation student as well. So having that insight from Becky, like really helped me like see what I kind of want to do and how to like format a personal statement for these schools.
Okay. And Alvaro, I know you're on the finance side. I'm not a finance major, but you and I connected on a lot of business sides. So I guess you would probably agree with Jacob's comments that it doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect degree to degree match, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, I really do want to echo what Jacob said. I think it's super important as a mentor to help the students sort of understand what decisions lie in front of them, right? So I remember coming to you and speaking to you about the situation that I was in. And I was like, hey, Glenn, what can I do to solve this situation? And you said, well, see, I don't have a ton of finance experience, but if I was in your shoes, this is what I would do, right? So it gives you that additional perspective, the experience that you've had, the experience, the knowledge in business that you had were really helpful in helping me determine what the best decision was for me and how to navigate that process.
Yeah, good point. And I think that's a good one. And Mark, I'll come to you and then to Becky. But so Mark, from the mentoring side, we talked about kind of some things that you were able to share with Jacob. Give us a sense from a mentoring perspective, just kind of the areas that you felt comfortable, sharing your advice and opinions on. What did you cover when you met with Jacob? What did you guys talk about?
Well, Jacob characterized this situation really well when he said he knew what he wanted, to get from me, because there's certain things that I'm going to be a bozo on and not even be in the realm of helpful. But he came to me on things where I could be helpful. And those related to things such as, hey, here's a couple job opportunities. Here's the dynamics of those opportunities. Here's what the person I'm going to work with is in this situation, and in the other situation, here's who it is. And I could give him another, and I think Alvaro said this, give him one more perspective around, hey, this is how I would think about it. And hey, as you go back and negotiate on this, you might want to think about these aspects. Maybe you want to make sure if this person is that important to you, make sure that person knows that in the interview process and understands that, hey, I want your involvement with me going forward as I join the firm. Whatever it might be, he came with situations that I think were already, hey, I got A and B, help me think through A and B. And frankly, he made my life really easy in that regard. That said, there were other aspects where we just kicked around, hey, what are you thinking about down the road for business school? And just thinking, about the future in a more open dynamic of saying, hey, as you think about this, don't hesitate to give me a call. As you're interacting on this, as you're thinking about, do I move to San Francisco? Do I go to New York? What do I do during this period? We reconnected on a number of different issues, and each time, I felt like there was, he gave me a little sense for what the topic was going to be. I got to think about that for a little time, and then we got to kick it around. I think the success of this was largely driven by Jacob, not by me. And I'm grateful that, I had the opportunity to be with him.
I think Mark brings up a good point, Becky, and I'll throw the question a little differently your way. It has to be kind of a two-way street, right? Between the mentor and the mentee. How did that develop and evolve with you and Crystal? Because again, you got an exceptional student, as you've talked about, that was wanting information. But how important is that to have, a two-way street as it relates to your relationship when you're in a mentoring situation, Becky?
I think it's very important, just to echo what Mark said, students really do need to know what they want going into this, but also Crystal didn't necessarily know what she wanted from me. And it took meeting together, talking, having conversations where she got to see my perspective. And then hopefully as that relationship developed, that she could see where I could be helpful for and feel comfortable. Because when she's writing her personal statement right now, that's huge vulnerability. She's putting it all out there and asking someone to look over it objectively. And though our fields are different, I've written a personal statement like that before. And I, have an understanding of, what could be helpful, what could be more effective. And then, having that closer relationship where she feels like it just isn't somebody looking at this personal statement, but it's someone who we've taken the time to just get to know each other, and she understands what I actually can bring to for the perspective, if that makes sense.
No, good point. I have a question in the chat that came through, and I'm going to throw this to our very smart students and former students on the line. So Jacob, Crystal, get ready. Alvaro, I'm going to ask you this question. So let's go, Alvaro, to you first, then Crystal, then Jacob. So why network? A lot of students say, I'm not comfortable networking, don't really like the term networking. It seems so kind of corporate. So Alvaro, Crystal, Jacob, give us your thoughts. Why network? Speak to the students when you're talking to them.
Absolutely. I think networking is super important. That's something that I learned in student leadership. Having the opportunity to get to know different individuals from different backgrounds just gives you that outer perspective that you really need in order to make decisions going forward with your future. For me, that experience happened, I want to say about 2 years ago at a finance conference at the University of Utah. I decided I wanted to expand my perspective on what opportunities I had as a business student within finance to pursue a career. And they had a ton of different speakers that just came from different areas of finance. And they were just speaking to the students about their opportunities and how they grew in their careers. And that really opened up my perspective. It gave me the ability to choose what I liked and what I didn't like within finance. It helped me realize what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were. And it took a little time to research, right? You have to also do your part as a mentee, but the networking portion is super important because it gives you access to knowledge. It gives you access to information that you wouldn't have if you hadn't stepped out of your comfort zone to meet other people.
Good response. Crystal, how'd you get over your fear of networking? Assuming you had a fear of it, how'd you do it?
I actually did. But I was involved within the LEAP Health Science program at the University of Utah. And they were actually able to connect me with a research opportunity with one of our research doctors here. And after meeting with him and like telling him about what I wanted to pursue and like PA school, he connected me with a PA advisor here at the University of Utah. And then I was able to meet with that advisor and like just talk about like, the application process as well, but how I could become an outstanding applicant for the school. But not only did that help, but he also connected me to a different PA who was working within my community, who was from my background. So seeing how she navigated like her patients and how we were able to connect within that same background and that same background with our patients. So it was just really cool to like, start off with the research opportunity and then end up with like all these shadowing experiences.
So if I had to summarize what you said, it's basically if you throw yourself out there and network, you can really reap some of the benefits of being connected to people that you never would have met otherwise if you hadn't kind of put yourself out there a little bit.
Definitely. I would have never met these people.
And Jacob, you're an outgoing businessman in New York, working for a software company. I mean, talk to us about networking. Tell us a little bit about the networking you learned from working with Mark Hardy.
Yeah, I think networking can be a challenging thing to approach, to approach as a student, especially when you approach it from the perspective as networking. But really what it is just getting to know someone and learning from them. And I think that's when you demystify networking, it's really just building that relationship and getting more perspective. When I came to Mark, I didn't know what I wanted. I had a bunch of, opportunities on the table. I wouldn't even say a bunch of opportunities. I had a few opportunities on the table, and I was a little, I didn't really have an idea of which direction I wanted to go in. And Mark was really crucial, like just played a crucial role of, these are areas that you could go. I don't have a ton of exposure here. I'm willing to connect you with people in this space. And I think that's what's really important is like you're learning and you're connecting with more people. But if you just think of it as I'm going to go network, it is this really challenging and unapproachable, it feels like a task. And really at the end of the day, it's more of just being able to connect with someone and have a relationship and just, talk what's on your mind, explore different opportunities and see what's out there. And so like I would never say networking was ever easy for me. And so I think like when you approach it differently and you frame it differently, it's a much more approachable thing.
Sure. No, good advice. And Alvaro, Crystal, Jacob, thank you for your candid comments. I want to flip it around, Chris. Thanks for turning on your camera because, let's look forward now. I don't know, you're out of school now 10, 15 years, and you're now having to venture into the job market, or you're looking to improve your situation, or you're looking to network to get an introduction for a business connection. Give us a sense what you alumni could offer those that are connected to this Forever Utah platform, and tell us a little bit about what it does and how people could use it.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me that, Glenn. I'm so excited about what Forever Utah can bring to our almost 300,000 alumni here at the U, to offer a digital platform that will change really how we look at networking and how we look at those relationships. It does not have to be in person. It does not have to be setting up in an event or having us manually introduce people. We want to give alumni and students the opportunity to form their own relationships in a way that's convenient for them, in a way that's accessible to everyone, and in a way that makes you form those relationships on your own time and through your own, building your own network. And so Forever Utah, I'll put a plug out for the URL, which is forever.utah.edu. If you have the U Alumni app, that's also a really great way to get into the network. So download that to your phones. The U Alumni app is so helpful. I really look at it as a resource for upcoming events and all the things that U Alumni offers. But Forever Utah is something we just launched. I think it's just maybe a couple of weeks old. And so we're looking for alumni to join us there. Basically, it's an alumni directory. You can join that. If we have your email address, you've already been pre-populated in there. So just go in, push your email address in, and then you're already in there. And then you can build your profile. And alumni can tell us more about yourself. You can say what field you're in, what your interests are, where you live, that sort of thing. And then you can find each other. If you're an accountant in Chicago and you're looking for other accountants in Chicago or in the Midwest, you can do that. You can search there. If you're a student that's looking to get into being an accountant in Chicago or just an accountant anywhere, you can look, and the alumni can identify that they are willing to help, willing to be outreached, and set their own parameters for how many outreaches they're willing to take on. So it's a really flexible platform that will allow alums and students the ability to make those connections on their own. And we're just really excited about it. We want to get as many alumni on as possible. We're setting up groups geographically and by interest. If you're a David Eccles School of Business alum, you can join that group there and look for the finance subgroup, which is awesome. So there's a lot of possibilities for alumni and students to meet other alums, meet other students, and be engaged in a way that's convenient and accessible for everyone. And you can also
Chris,
get a lot mentoring
let me
from
ask
other
you,
alums too.
let me interrupt you real quick. So
Sure.
I don't know if our technical folks on this YouTube call can let me know, but can I share my screen and just show the website? Is that doable, Sydney, Andy? Can we do that? I hope we can do it because I'm going to try to do it right now. Can you see what I'm seeing on my screen?
I see it.
I may be breaking all the rules of our YouTube broadcast, but when I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So Chris, this is what you were describing. So give us a little description of what people are seeing right now and what this visual is.
That's right. So what you're looking at here is on the far left side, it's set up similar to other social networks that you may be familiar with, like LinkedIn or Facebook or things like that, but it is just for you alumni and students. And I wanted to mention too, alumni can mentor other alumni. I mean, I think it's really important that I like to mention a directive that I was given by President Randall when I was at the David Eccles School of Business as the director of alumni relations there. He said, Chris, I want you to build an alumni network that has value for future students, for current students, and for alumni. So we want to be part of that process from the minute that you start thinking about being here on campus. And so you can see a feed of news and news from all of our colleges and news that alums can post. You can see us, obviously, potential events on the side here, potential groups that you might be able to join. And then, of course, when you get into the mentoring part, there's ways that you can set up mentoring relationships with alumni and just meet other alums in any possible way and other students. So it's a really fantastic platform.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a lot easier to visualize what you were saying. And again, not that my profile is anything to look at, but I just put in very similar to what I have in my LinkedIn profile. And I think the beauty of this platform is you can link it to LinkedIn. So it brings in content, years you graduated, areas of interest, and then you can have whether or not you have opportunities to connect with other alumni who are looking to get into your field. I've already had people reach out to me on the Forever Utah Alumni Network wanting to connect. I happen to be in the high-tech industry and wanting to connect with others in the software business and also just asking questions as their career is moving forward. I like the recent jobs listing here too. So there are job offers within the U, and then also posts within the feeds can have job related or interest related posts as well. So
yeah, and that's an important part to point out is that one way that alumni can really help students at the university and the university as a whole with so many things is by hiring. So many of our job opportunities for students do come from other alums. And so we don't always think of that as an alum as how can I help the U? That's a really easy way to do it. If you're in a position of hiring at your company, please reach out to us and get those jobs on the job board, because if you can bring more youths into your company, that helps the university all around and certainly helps those students directly. So that's a really important piece.
Great. Well, I hope I didn't derail the YouTube webcast by just doing that. I could take you to my fantasy football website to show you who I'm taking in the USC game, but I wouldn't have to do that because you know who I'm taking. So thank you, Chris. That's very helpful. And again, I just have to encourage everyone who's going to watch or watching now, sign up for the Forever Utah Network. It's just going to open doors as it relates to opportunities and give you a chance to do a lot of different things as it relates to helping others. And I guess, as we've talked about using this tool to help kind of spread the word, it's really going to help us scale the amount of people that can be connected, basically. So if you're listening to this broadcast and you're an alumni and you're saying, listen, I want to give back to the university, but I don't know how, this is a great way to do it because you can give back of your time. And maybe I'll go to Becky first, then Mark. Give us a sense, Becky, time. I mean, you're a busy mother, you're a professional, you have a lot going on in your work-life balance. How did you find time to make time for Crystal as a mentor? How did you do that? Mark, well, I'll throw the same question to you after Becky.
Well, I just, when it's a priority, I just made it part of my scheduling, but I think it does take some forethought and, initially I met with Crystal in person. And so then we could kind of transition more to texting and it not feel forced. And so, but we're meeting next week for lunch. So it just, it doesn't really, it takes almost as much as a patient visit that I see with my home health. So I just schedule it like I schedule everything else. And, I try to be respectful of Crystal's time too, because she's an RA, she works up at the U hospital, she's a full-time student. So, we always try to throw out a couple of options that works well for both of us. So neither one of us really feels like we're being put out, but it's working within both of our schedules. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Mark, how did you manage it? You have a busy schedule. How did you find time to mentor? I know Jacob is not the only student that you've kind of helped in the past. So how do you balance all that?
Well, and that's an important point. Jacob actually introduced me to 3 or 4 other students who I've been in contact with, and that's been great. And I say it under this guy. I have throughout my career said I have to put time aside on a regular basis to develop relationships. And I don't call it networking. I just called it developing relationships with people who I could then go back to in life and when I needed them, or when they needed me, they could come to me. And I think it's something that no matter what your field, developing a relationship plan for yourself around, hey, I'm going to give time to that on a regular basis. And Jacob knows this because this is when we mainly met. I put, hey, I'm going to try to do 2 breakfasts a month where I meet somebody new and I get involved with somebody who either I want to meet or they want to meet me, and I put that time aside. Breakfast is an easy one because there's an end point. You can start it as early as you need to. There's a natural end point to that, and it works out, from an efficiency standpoint. But most importantly, you have to make it a priority and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make some time for that. And of all the things I've done in my career and, of this nature, I would say this has been one of the more rewarding. In particular, the time spent with Jacob has been very rewarding. And he's helped me think about, hey, I got to put some thought into that. I gave him a little insight into how I think about relationships as he was thinking about his core relationship. And he played it back for me. And I said, gosh, you got some insights that I didn't have as he was thinking through the same things that I gave him. So I think it's, you get a lot out of these things. You get as much as you put into it. But I would say putting time aside and making it a part of your career development is not a bad idea, because Jacob should have 10 other guys like me that he can reach out to. And I know I will at the drop of a hat, help Jacob any way I can. And to have other people who do that, that's, I think, what the U of U's goal is here. Chris has stated it, but I lived down in Southern California for a long time. And down there, if you're a USC grad, other USC grads will do almost anything for you to help you find a job. We want that same attitude at the University of Utah. If you're a U of U grad, we want to go find opportunities for those U of U grads and put them in the right positions where they can succeed. And that's, something that I'm committed to.
Yeah, that's great. And thanks for your giving back. Because again, I think a lot of times those who are listening, this is an opportunity for you to gauge a way to give back to those that maybe helped you along. I know in my schooling, I remember 3 distinct people in the communications department, Deanne Evans, Milt Holstein, and Roy Gibson. Those are names that Jacob, Alvaro, and Crystal have no idea, but those 3 really helped me, from an academic perspective, understand what I needed to do career-wise. So it's helpful to have those. So I'm going to give another example, and then Jacob, Crystal, Alvaro, I'm going to come to you with kind of your final takeaway of, lessons learned and advice you'd give, your single biggest takeaway from just being involved in this whole process. So be thinking about that as I describe another kind of anecdote to what Becky and Mark said, okay? Little homework assignment for you. So we have literally dozens and dozens of people like Mark and Becky. We couldn't have them all on our webcast. We'd love to have had more, but we have many, many people who are giving back to the university in so many ways. So on behalf of you alumni, thank you for your willingness to engage and your willingness to give back. I engaged with an alumni that was an engineering major. He was some 30 years removed from his experience at the University of Utah. And we actually paired him, believe it or not, with a pre-med student. Now you may wonder, kind of back to Mark and Jacob's discussion about having to be in a specific field, why would we pair an engineering student and a pre-med student together? Well, they developed a nice connection. And as Mark and Jacob have described, they talked about a lot of other things other than just, getting into med school, taking the MCAT and so forth. And it was interesting because providing some of another perspective, and I think that's what you're hearing from Crystal and Alvaro and Jacob, is that it's a different perspective, maybe on the same question, but somebody coming from a totally different point of view. Well, they worked together for about a year and a half, and that pre-med student then said to the engineering mentor, do you know anybody in the medical field? And it turned out this engineering graduate who like I said, some 30 years removed from his degree, said, I know one person who's a doctor. He made that introduction, and that student ended up shadowing that doctor in the field that they were interested in. So it's not necessarily that the mentor may have all of the answers, but you as a mentor may know someone that has some more of the answers. So I think that was a great learning lesson for me, that as you get part of the Forever Utah platform and you feel like you can offer some guidance and advice, it doesn't always have to be, hey, you're going to law school, you have to be an attorney. Hey, you're going to med school, you have to be a doctor. Hey, you're going to engineering school, you have to be an engineer. It's nice when that works out, right, Crystal? I mean, when it works out, we have someone in a similar field, but I think that was a great example that you can give back without being perfectly aligned in that regard. So with that in mind, biggest takeaway, biggest lesson learned. Crystal, let's go to you. What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is that I could really accomplish anything I really want. Like Becky's been helping me with my application process. So like having someone to like root for me and, like gives me a sense of like belonging within like just like in general sense of belonging within my community as well. Being first generation student, like nobody's done this, so accomplishment as well. So that's my biggest takeaway, is knowing that I can accomplish anything.
Great words. Alvaro, your thoughts?
No, absolutely. I think a lot of mentees, when they begin the mentoring relationship, like Jacob and like Crystal, sometimes we don't know exactly where it's going. Sometimes we don't know what we want out of it, right? But I think the mentoring relationship is a two-way street. You definitely have to put in some work, give it some thought, and with your mentor, structure a way to make this work and get what you want out of the experience. So I think the biggest takeaway is communication. Make sure that your mentor knows what you want, what your aspirations are, who you are as a person, what are your values, what's your mission, where do you want to go in life. And I promise that your mentor will be there to help you get through whatever situation it is that you're struggling with. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Great thoughts, Alvaro. Jacob, let's go to you for some final thoughts.
Yeah, I would echo Alvaro's thoughts there. I think it's really important to be transparent with your mentor, but also be willing to listen to their advice and their feedback. At the end of the day, you can't capitalize on opportunities that you don't know about, and a mentor is really important for being able to expose you to those opportunities and to show you what's out there and to provide you with that insight or that feedback. And I think, in order to get to that spot, you have to be transparent about, who you are, where you're looking to go, and the things that you're hoping to accomplish, and then being able to listen to your mentor on how to get there and what opportunities can arise from the situation you're in. And that's my biggest takeaway, is just that transparency and that willingness to listen and, heed to some of that feedback.
I think I'm kind of figuring out what you said, Mark. I wrote down what Jacob said here. You can't capitalize on opportunities you don't know about. So I've learned something today, Jacob. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I'm going to give
Mark.
You got that from Mark? Is that what you're saying? All right, Mark, Becky, let's go to you first, Mark, then we'll end up with you, Becky. But final thoughts for our audience. Just speak to the mentors, just give them any final advice, tips to those that may be on the fence, not sure if they can take on the assignment of mentor. Mark, and then Becky.
Well, my first thought would be, and I think I'm picking up on what Jacob said. I think Jacob said networking is a big word. Well, mentoring can be a big word. What this really means is, hey, make a new friend. And in this case, make a friend who might be 20 years younger than you. And I guess I'll steal from Rodney Dangerfield. And he said, if you want to look skinny, hang around fat people. I say this, if you want to be young and you're old, hang around young people. And it's fun to do. You learn a lot. You learn more about what's going on in the real world. And so I would say, it's an opportunity to get to know someone that is, in many cases, 20, 30 years younger than you, but gives you some insights into the world that frankly, oftentimes is passing us by. It's a new friendship. Jump in, enjoy it, and don't think you have to, be perfect at it. It is a friendship, and friendships, in my mind, take their own course.
Didn't think we'd hear Rodney Dangerfield quoted on a U of U broadcast, but thank you for sharing that one. Becky, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I liked everything that Mark said. It really is just a friendship. I think I thought, I don't know if I have it in me to be her mentor. She's so incredible, but I think of myself first as her friend, and I am a link in her relationship with networking, and I'm a perspective that she can draw on. And I hope she sees me as someone who's rooting for her to succeed and helping her find other avenues and other perspectives that people can, that she can reach out for. But even as she goes through her program, I want to see her succeed until the very end. And I hope our friendship exists outside of this.
Great words. Chris, why don't you take us home if we can get you back on camera? Chris, take us home. Final thoughts to our audience and to those that will listen to this webcast. Give us some perspective and thoughts. You've been doing this a long time. You did it for 11 years at the business school. You're now leading all 300,000 University of Utah alum globally. Give us some of your final thoughts.
Thanks, Glenn. I really just wanted to say thank you to all of our alumni and students who participated, and thank you to all of you who are listening at home or in your offices. We really appreciate your perspectives, and they're helping us to build something that has so much value. So our gratitude is to you today. As far as kind of my final thoughts, I think of mentoring and networking as a way for us as alums to pay it forward. I think Utah has an incredibly service-oriented culture. We care about people here. And this is a way for us to continue that culture of paying it forward and caring about the next generation of students and caring about the university as a whole and building something really lasting and meaningful and important. So think of it, mentoring and networking that way as a way for us to do something good for the future generations. Mentoring is also making us better as mentors, as alumni. I feel like every time that I'm able to help a student or a younger employee or a younger alum, I've gotten better at my own job. I've learned something really important. And so really, is the mentoring benefit to students or is it to us? I think it's to us. I feel like I have come ahead in that relationship, and it's made me so much better, brought me new perspectives, pulled me out of old biases. It's really changed me for the better in every way. So that's how I kind of want to end things. Thank you to all of you. Please join us on the Forever Utah Network. I think it's going to be a wonderful benefit for so many students and alumni. I'm really thrilled to start my tenure here as the Chief Alumni Relations Officer by bringing so many people together, engaging with the university and feeling pride in this university that we all love so much. So hope to see you there. Watch for a follow-up alumni email to everyone tomorrow and a link to a recording to this event to rewatch or share, as well as a link to register for Forever Utah. And you can also find us on social media too. Find us on Instagram at Utah Alumni. So I think that's all. We kind of will wrap up here. And thanks to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you again here on YouTube.
Chris, thank you. Thanks to everyone. Thanks for joining. Appreciate everyone getting on. And again, the takeaway of the day, you can't capitalize on opportunities you don't know about. So with that, thanks for your time and go Utes.